Letter to Mrs. Roosevelt. I suppose from your point of view, the work relief, old age pensions, slum clearance, and all the rest seem like a perfect remedy for all the ills of this country. But I would like for you to see the results as the other half has seen them. We have always had a shiftless, never-do-well class of people whose one and only aim in life is to live without work. I have been rubbing elbows with this class for nearly 60 years and have tried to help some of the most promising and have seen others try to help them, but it can't be done. We cannot help those who will not try to help themselves, and if they do try, a square deal is all they need. And by the way, that is all this country needs, or ever has needed. A square deal for all, and then let each paddle their own canoe or sink. There has never been any necessity for anyone who is able to work being on relief in this locality, but there have been many eating the bread of charity, and they have lived better than ever before. I have had taxpayers tell me that their children came from school and asked why they couldn't have nice lunches like the children on relief. The women and children around here have had to work at the fields and help save the crops, and several women fainted while at work, and at the same time we couldn't go up or down the road without stumbling over some of the reliefers, moping and carrying around dirt from one side of the road to the other and back again, or else asleep. I live alone on a farm and have not raised any crops for the last 2 years, as there is no help to be had. I am feeding the stock and have been cutting the wood to keep my house fires burning. There are several reliefers around here now who have been kicked off relief, but they refuse to work unless they can get relief hours and wages. But they are so worthless, no one can afford to hire them. As for the clearance of the real slums, it can't be done as long as their inhabitants are allowed to reproduce their kind. I would like for you to see what a family of that class can do to a decent house in a short time. Such a family moved into an almost new, neat 4-room house near the here last winter. They even cut down some of the shade trees for fuel after they had burned everything they could pry loose. There were 2 big idle boys in the family, and they could get all the fuel they wanted just for cutting, but the shade trees were closer, and it was taking a great amount of fuel, for they had broken out several windows, and they had but very little bedding. There were 2 women there all the time, and 3 part of the time, and there was enough good clothing tramped in the mud around the yard to have made all the bedcloths they needed. It was clothing that had been given to them, and they had worn it until it was so too filthy to wear any longer without washing, so they threw it out and begged more. I will not try to describe their filth for you. You would not believe me. They paid no rent while there, and left between 2 sons, owing everyone from whom they could get nickels worth of anything. They are just a fair sample of the class of people on whom so much of our hard-earned tax money is being squandered, and on whom such sympathy is being wasted. As for the old people on the beggars' allowances, they have provided homes for all the old people who never like to work, where they will be neither cold nor hungry, but better homes than most of them have ever tried to provide for themselves. They have lived many years through the most prosperous times of our country, and have and had an opportunity to prepare for old age, but they spent their lives in idleness or worse, and now they expect those who have worked like slaves to provide a living for them and all their worthless descendants. Some of them are asking for from $30 to $60 a month, when I have known them to live on $1 a week rather than go work. There is many a little child doing without butter on its bread, so that some old sot can have his booze and tobacco. Some old sot who spent his working years loafing around pool rooms and saloons, boasting that the world owed him a living. Even the child welfare has become a racket. The parents of large families are getting divorces so that the mothers and children can qualify for aid. The children have to join the ranks of the unemployment as they grow up, for no child has been raised on charity in this community has ever amounted to anything. You people who have plenty in this world, of this world's goods, and whose money comes easy, have no idea of the heartbreaking toil and self-denial which is the lot of the working people who are trying to make an honest living, and then to have to shoulder all these unjust burdens seem like the last straw. During the worst of the Depression, many of the farmers had to deny their family butters, eggs, meat, etc., and sell it to pay their taxes, and then had to stand by and see these deadbeats carry it home to their families and by the armload. And they knew their tax money was helping pay for it. One woman saw a man carry out 8 pounds of butter at one time. The crookedness, selfishness, greed, and graft of the crooked politicians is making one gigantic racket out of the New Deal, and it is making this nation of deadbeats and beggars, and if it continues, the people who will work will soon be nothing but slaves for the pampered poverty rats, and I am afraid these human parasites are going to become a menace to the country unless they are disfranchised. No one should have the right to vote theirself a living at expense of the taxpayers. They learned their strength at the last election, and also learned that they can get just about anything what they want by voting right. They have had a taste of their coveted life of idleness, and at the rate they're increasing, they will soon control the country. The 20th child arrived in the home of one chronic reliever near here some time ago. Is it any wonder the taxpayers are discouraged by all the penalizing of thrift and industry to reward shiftlessness, or that the whole country is on the brink of chaos? Signed, Minnie A Hardin.